Hello and welcome to another edition of Willow Talk. Great to have your company. Adam Peacock here with Brad Haddin in the studio. Hads, welcome back. How are things?
Mate, good to be back. I'm looking forward to getting right into this first test against New Zealand. A few interesting selections. Jemison's out. He's a huge out for
blow.
The Kiwis, but off a 3-0 2020 win, do Australia take any momentum from that, or is this a totally different game?
It was pretty much a clean sweep back in 2005 for Australia over there with the T20, 5 one-dayers and 2 of the 3 tests won by Australia. Rain stopped it becoming a clean sweep, and one of the members of that squad, Michael Kasparovitz, is going to join us a bit later on, not only to talk about that, but a whole range of things that went on in an amazing period for Australian cricket, because he was involved in the 05 Ashes series. Obviously, he was involved in 01 against India over there, that monumental series, and a good tourist, I'm led to believe, Hats.
Well, what Casper is a really good storyteller. So it'd be good to listen to some of Casper's stories. He was around in that great era of Australian cricket. You had McGrath, Gillespie, Lee, Caswich, Bickle on the sidelines. But the other thing that'll be really good to hear from him, because he bullied New South Wales a lot. Casper and Bick tried to bully New South Wales for a long time.
A very long time, yeah. So we'll talk to Casper about that. And I want to ask him about this rumour that he actually got an internal newsletter going just to keep things vibrant.
True story.
True story.
Let him tell you about it.
We'll let him tell us about it a bit later on. Casper coming up later on Willow Talk. Remember to hit us up on TikTok, Instagram. The numbers are good and keep them going good. Thank you very much for everyone who gets involved there. Just search Willow Talk Podcast. Eddie Nell from South Africa asked Hads on TikTok. And this is a good question, Eddie. So thank you for this. Which Australian cricketer would you choose, Hads, to come out of retirement, and why?
It is a good question. And the obvious one straight away you go for my era and what I've seen is McGrath, Warne. You'd love to stand at the other end and learn from Bradman. But the one I'm going to say, a bit left field, is Jeff Thompson.
Jeff Thompson.
And the reason being is because I had the luxury to keep to Brett Lee, face Joel Bakhtar, not quite at his best, but and also Sean Tate. And they tell me at times in different parts, normally up in Queensland, Casper could probably answer this, but Jeff Thompson was quicker than everyone.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see that.
Your speed gun was how hard it was hitting gloves, and I dare say
over my head.
There are stories of Jeff Thompson in grade cricket all around Sydney and all around the place that he would actually hit the sight screen on the full with bounces.
Yeah. And that's why I would like to see that live. I've been lucky enough to see guys bowl 160. Kept a Tatey when he bowled the ball at 161, and I've never ever seen anything quicker than that. So it'd be great to just stand and catch a couple of balls to Jeff Thompson.
What would Jeff Thompson go for in an IPL auction? If it was him at his peak and him right now at that peak going into an auction in 2024?
Well, he's a bit of a showman, so he'd suit the IPL. Starkey just went for 4. Como went for 3, so I'm saying around that mark.
Between 3 and 4, yeah.
Take that?
Oh, yeah. Tomorrow. Anyway, let's get into this preview of the Test series, which starts on Thursday. Basin Reserve, Wellington. The windiest place on earth, pretty much. May as well be on Mawson Base, this joint. It's always windy at Basin Reserve. Windy Wellington. A 9 a.m. Aussie start. So know what I'll be. I'll be dropping children at said state schools and heading back and sitting up on the couch for this one. And you're going to be working on the commentary, Hats. So looking forward to that. Australia won their past 4 Test series in New Zealand. Haven't lost a Test in New Zealand since 1993. The New Zealand have it in them, from what you've seen in the past 24 months, to change that statistic?
Well, every time we play New Zealand in recent time, they've been ranked number 1. They're coming off a great Test series win, but last time they were out here, they didn't compete with us. And that's going to be the belief that New Zealand have to get over going into this Test series. Do they believe that they can compete with this Australian team? Our bowlers are as good as any era at the moment. 3 outstanding fast bowlers with Nathan Lyon. Kane Williamson, let's be honest, he's the big wicket. A lot of their energy comes off the back of what Kane Williamson does with the bat. And he's only got an average of 41. against Australia. Against other countries, it's up around 50. He's been probably the best batsman out of New Zealand. But just to tick his legacy piece off, he'd love to lead New Zealand with the bat in a Test series win against Australia.
So tail of the tape of the two teams, New Zealand coming off a 2-0 Test series win over South Africa. I'll call them, not B, not C, all the way down in the alphabet. Australia, a 4-1 summer at home, but a winning streak of 0 after what happened at the Gabba and Shamar Joseph against the West Indies. So some storylines to look out for. And you mentioned it there with Kane Williamson, the big wicket for New Zealand, even though Ravindra is a player on the rise and a player that we love watching. Steve Smith, Kane Williamson, both 32 Test tons. Does Ego play a part here? Who's the better?
I don't think
he's
Ego
got a better record.
Not with these two. They're not that sort of player. They're both obviously world class at their trade, but it's going to be interesting because Australia only scored 2 centuries. One was David Warner and the other one was Travis Head during the summer. So Steve Smith found himself in a new position. In that loss against the West Indies at the Gabba, he found some real rhythm in his game. Shamar Joseph was outstanding with the ball, was intimidating, bowled with great pace. But what we got to remember from that, there was one person in total control at the other end, and that was Steve Smith. And in recent times, if you look at the New Zealand team, it's been Kane Williamson. Yep. Every second game, he's scoring 100. He was on fire during the recent series against South Africa. But can he handle this Australian attack? That would be playing on the back of his mind. I'd love a successful series against Australia. They've been our Achilles heel for some time, and I imagine Kane Williamson would love to be at the forefront of leading New Zealand to a victory over Australia.
They've had some great technicians, New Zealand, in their middle order. You go back to Martin Crowe, for instance, who stylishly who's one of the best to watch. Others with different traits. Stephen Fleming scored a stack of Test runs. Ross Taylor as well. But is Kane their best?
Yeah, I think
best
so.
Ever? Is he best statistically? But.
Statistically, he's the best, but I don't think Kane Williamson will be thinking about that. What will put him apart to everyone is if he can lead New Zealand in a Test series win against Australia.
Do they do the old Australian thing of like prioritising
100%
that week, and how do they go about it tactically?
Well, tactically, that you've got to make life uncomfortable from Kane Williamson. The one thing he can do at times, he looks like he's in total control. And the one thing with this Australian attack, you got 3 different quicks that complement each other. You'll have Green and also Marsh if needed, Nathan Lyon. So the one thing they've got to do is make life uncomfortable for Kane Williams to score. Every run he gets, he's got to fight for, build pressure, create an uncomfortable environment in the field. And all of a sudden then the energy from that, the rest of the New Zealand team will see that. If you can and put the pressure on Kane Williamson there, get him to make a poor decision, all of a sudden there's a lot of pressure then on the middle order, late order, and the batters at the top. So, it's about targeting Kane Williamson.
So Australia's middle order during the summer didn't have a fantastic return. Marnus averaged 28, Cam Green 21, Travis Head 25. Is this the soft spot for Australia that maybe New Zealand can exploit, or do you expect one, if not 2 of those guys to have a big 2 tests?
Well, I expect those guys to improve. They're 2 class of players. Marnus has been in a form slump for some time. We haven't seen a lot of Marnus actually over the last couple of months, and knowing his personality, he'll be away working on those weaknesses. I read something the other day that yes, he has found himself playing the balls he shouldn't outside off stumps. So I don't expect the middle order to look as bad statistically as they did during the summer. But the one thing for New Zealand when they're going into the game, and they've got to have really clear plans up the top, and is if we do get the new ball right and got to think about taking wickets, maybe they then can think, okay, put a little bit of pressure on this middle order. But I expect them to be a lot more solid than they were this summer.
Can't imagine Marnus, who's been involved for Queensland and Big Bash as well since the last test, that he's just drifted off to the beach and not thought about cricket. He's thought deeply about everything. In your time, who was the guy that was having a little bit of a blip, who worked his way out of it like you wouldn't believe, just went into this bubble of thought to try and get himself out of any kind of mini slump that he might have been in?
Well, You know what? How I'm going to answer that is every player that's played for Australia.
Yeah.
Because what happens, you get to play in Australia with a certain amount of ability. You got runs behind you, hopefully in state cricket, and the quality jumps. Opposition's IQ cricket-wise jump, and eventually you go through a patch of whether it be a good patch, but you do go that lower patch and come out of the game. So you've got to go away back and reinvent yourself all the time. Do you trust what you're doing? Do I have to tighten my technique? So at every stage, someone's gone through the same as Marnus. So, and that can be sometimes. It doesn't have to be technique. It can be a mindset change. Have I put too much pressure on myself? Is the enormity of the series got the better of me? Someone like Matthew Hayden even went through it, who was the best opener I've ever played with. I remember he didn't score the runs he wanted in 2005. Ashes got 100 in the last test, and all of a sudden his career just took off again.
Yeah. But who went to the end of, normality to try and do it?
Well, you look at guys like JL.
Yeah.
They reinvented himself. He was one of those grafty players who just put a high price on his wicket. Then he came back into the Australian team after being called back into that Oval Test match in the Ashes, and all of a sudden he was the attacking player. He was a player that took the game on from ball one, gave the energy to the Australian innings. So they went away, reinvented himself, and look at the success they had.
Rachin Ravindra Hads, he looks the real deal. I mean, he handled whatever occasion was in front of him at the World Cup mostly, and that's like kind of announcing himself on the international stage. He's turned a maiden test 100 into 240. He looks technically, with it. He'll get found out a little bit. They'll pick holes in him, but how big a series are you expecting from this young man?
Well, Ravindra at the moment has an appetite for big events. You have to look what he did in the World Cup. He enjoyed that stage. He didn't get overawed. As you said, he turned his first 100 into 240, so he's got an appetite to bat for long periods of time, and that's what you need to coming up against this Australian attack. But it's going to be interesting for him because this is going to be a real test. He hasn't, with the success he's had, Australia will pick him apart. They'll pick him apart in the analytics. They'll have some really clear plans, and it's whether then he has the appetite to stand in front of these Australian quicks and take them on.
Have you seen anything that suggests that one area is a big concern for him that he's trying to mask with other great parts of his game at the moment?
Well, the one thing I think it's going to be interesting is the relentless pressure. With the three Australian fast bowlers, it's going to consistently come. You got Cummins, you got Hazelwood, you've got Stark. And then also, for a left-hander, you've got Nathan Lyon.
Yeah.
He'll be, as soon as he walks out, he'll be in the captain's ear, give me a go, give me a go, give me a go. So this is the first time I think he's got four world-class fast bowlers. There's nowhere to relax.
Yeah.
If you just lose your concentration for just a fraction of a second, that's where they'll pounce. So, but at the moment, everything he's done has been of a high class.
Is that the difference at this level, especially with these guys who have been there and done that? We'll speak to Casper a bit later on, interested on his thoughts on where he places this current crop with the crop that he was involved with nearly 20 years ago. But with guys like this, you might get one ball that you don't really need to deal with per over, maybe two against these guys, whereas opposed to other attacks, it might be three, might be four. You might get two good ones where you really have to be on your toes for.
Well, what
not that you're not on your toes for every ball, but you know what I mean.
What playing Test cricket's about recognising big moments, and there's going to be stages where you might have Hazelwood from one end and Camo from the other, and you get through that spell, and you go and talk to your batter in the middle. And think, oh, well done, we've got through that. That was a big occasion. Go back to the end and set. All of a sudden, you relax for that split second, and Stark and Lyon get you. So this would be the first time he's had four world-class bowlers. There's no place to relax. And in saying that, everything he's done, he's done well. He's done of high class. So he'll be looking forward to this challenge also at this stage in his career, because at the end of this series, This will give him a really good marker about where he's at in his cricket.
Yeah, he's taken every step so far, so you can't really say that he's going to fail this series. The end is nigh for his ascendancy, but we'll wait and see against the class of Australia. Young, quick William O'Rourke took 9 wickets on debut in the second test in that series against South Africa, and setting up a bit of a conflicting emotion for us here, Hads, at Willow Talk. William's nickname is Willow.
We want him to do well, don't we?
Oh, I don't know. I'm
Well,
going to put aside what we represent twice a week here at Willow Talk and say I hope he fails.
Yeah, I'll say it.
With all due respect to him. Yeah.
Yeah. But the one thing he's got in his favour is pace.
Yeah.
Shamar Joseph, we've seen the recent Test series that Australia struggled at times with the pace, and to beat this Australian team, you need someone to intimidate, and that's the role he can play. He's only young. And you've got to be careful when you're a young fast bowler against Australia that you don't let emotions get the better of him. If he comes out after Australia, I'm going to knock their heads off, and he's off length, all of a sudden he's going at 8 and over and he can't build it back. But if he's used right, he can be used in short spells to intimidate. You speak a bit about Wagner's role with Steve Smith with the short ball barrage in 2019, 2020. Got him, I think, 5 times in 4 tests. I don't know if he's got the pace to do it anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think he's got the stamina to consistently do it, but a young O'Rourke might.
Yeah.
So you might see him using short spells for a bit of intimidation. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how he goes, because if he's not on his mark, pace will go a long way. When
I say fail, I hope he fails. I don't really mean that, but I kind of do.
do.
I kind of do.
Don't
Just
sit
in
on the
this
fence.
series.
Don't sit on the fence.
I'd love him to rip through England or something like that.
So would
That'd
we
be
all.
great. It'd be fantastic. Just not in this series. Willow, all the best, pal. Love you. Love your name. Just not you, the cricketer, for these next couple of weeks. Do you remember any? I remember when Dave Warner debuted in that T20 at the MCG, and there was a bit of pop about him. There was, oh wow, have a look at this bloke, because there was a reputation coming in. Not saying that young William's there, but he's maybe cultivated a bit of hope through his opening test, or his first ever test thing. Do you ever remember any kids coming in that had this massive boom that was almost unfortunate for them, because how on earth could you live up to it?
Well,
Dave Warner did.
Yeah, I think Sean Tate had that, and Tate probably wasn't the success he should have been at Test cricket. He came in, everyone wanting to see him bowl 160 Ks every ball. This is why Brett Lee's so unique in what he did for a long period of time. But Tate, his body probably couldn't have handled the demands of Test cricket and all the hype around. He had a good, okay, one-day career for Australia, but we probably didn't see the best of him in Test cricket because of the demand on his body. So,
well, really, with physics, I mean, and biology and all that, the human body is probably not designed to bowl at 160 k's an hour consistently.
Well, that's
even
why,
150.
Well, that's why Brett Lee's career is so unique.
Yeah,
no one's been able to have that 150 ball in their armoury for 10 years, and being still not as much at the start as at the end, when now and then he'd still have 150 Ks up his sleeve for one ball every couple of games in the sixes. So that's why he was such a freak of an athlete.
Yeah, and that's why his young fella's not a bad batter, because he's facing that from the old man in the backyard. He got used to quick pace real quick.
Intimidating.
Lee Jr. New Zealand crowd. So let's get to this to end this little segment before we get Casper on. The first 4 days at the Basin sold out already. Forecast, which is like verging on a miracle in Wellington, looks okay. Do you expect it to be typical Kiwi, just niggly?
Hope
consistently?
So.
I hope so.
That's what you want. You know when England come out, the Kiwis come out, you know our crowd's going to be one-eyed. And you don't want New Zealand to be any different. That's part of the beauty of going and playing at the grounds like Basin Reserve and Eden Park. And
can you hear them? Really, like a place like Basin looks.
They're right
small.
there. It's like a grey ground. They're right there at the fence, and I expect the one copying it the most and had the most fun with it will be Nathan Lyon.
Yeah,
he'll have a bit of fun, and Travis Head.
Well, Trav, given what he did, like late in the summer, He's going to be under the lid the whole time, won't he? He won't get out in the deep too much. Maybe if the field's spread, he'll be out there.
With the spinners, Trav seems to find his way out to deep point or deep backward square. So, but both those guys will have some fun.
Yeah.
I think the fast bowlers, they'll be oblivious to it. That they won't. But
Drinking
those
their
two,
Powerades,
those two will engage a bit.
Which player jumps out at you as a guy who just loved giving it back to the crowd? No, maybe not being as jovial as some of like a Merv Hughes in front of Bay 13, but, just flew it back at the crowd and saying, no, I'm not signing on any of your stinking autographs. Or
I tell you one that got the crowd going that shocked me more than anything was Peter Siddle at the Bullring in Joburg.
Ooh.
I remember playing a series against South Africa, and that they beat us here in Australia, and Stain went after us, our tail a bit with a short ball, but was quite intimidating. And Peter Siddle didn't say anything to anyone in the team meetings, nothing. Stain came out to bat. He went around the wicket, and this is where Sids then could get the ball around 145, 150 Ks. And he just went after Stain. And I remember first ball, he just went whoo,
straight at his armpit.
Mate, just missed him. He's hit the deck. He's standing over it. And all of a sudden, the Bullring came alive.
Ooh.
And we just went, whoa, where did this come from? So, he got the crowd going, and as much as I've ever seen before. And the Bullring was quite intimidating.
Yeah.
Remember Merv Hughes walking up the race, and, mate, they had little kids that knew words that, mate, you shouldn't know now.
Was that bad? Like that?
Yeah.
And they still have it.
Yeah.
And it's enclosed. You got nowhere to go.
No.
You just got to
just cop it.
Yeah.
Just go. But
well, they bang on it, do they?
Yeah, they bang on it. They throw Gatorade at your shoes.
Oh, awesome.
But the thing about it, it's all you never felt unsafe. But it was just so one-eyed, and that's what the beauty of Test cricket is. Whether you go to India, South Africa, and the Kiwis will be the same. The rivalry not only in cricket but in rugby and in rugby league now and that as well. So. Yeah, you want to see a bit of passion from the crowd because as a player, it also makes the environment out there a lot of fun.
Where do our crowds rank in all of this? Because we always talk about the intimidating.
We're one-eyed.
We're intimidating?
Yeah.
Yeah? We know ourselves?
Yeah.
We at the top of the list in that regard? Or you were always in the centre, obviously?
No. We did our bit to get the Australian crowds into the game when we needed them.
Okay.
Oh, very good.
Yeah?
Very accommodating.
How did you do that?
Mate, just sort of made sure that they knew what we appreciated what they were doing.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for watching the Willow Talk podcast on YouTube. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't have to miss an episode wherever you are. And while you're at it, check out these videos up here. They're mostly good.